Do I have to maintain my hybrid car? The real cost of getting it wrong. Well, the short answer and is yes. You absolutely have to maintain your hybrid car, not because the manufacturer booklet says so, and not because a shop wants to sell you something. You maintain it because a hybrid is one of the most sophisticated pieces of machinery that you'll ever own, and sophistication without stewardship becomes a liability. A hybrid isn't a gas car with a battery bolted on. It's two propulsion systems, an internal combustion engine and a high voltage electric drive, working in constant coordination, handing power back and forth thousands of times in a single trip across town. When that coordination is healthy, a hybrid is one of the most reliable, efficient vehicles ever built. When it's neglected, the repair bills don't just add up, they compound. The part most owners miss, neglect in a conventional car is often linear. You skip something, a part wears. You replace the part, neglect in a hybrid is exponential. One ignored system stresses another, which overworks a third, and by the time a warning light appears, you're not looking at a repair, you're looking at a cascade. So here's a quick tip. If your hybrid fuel economy has quietly dropped over the last few months and you can't explain why, that's not just that's not how it is now. Decline in efficiency is often the earliest signal that a system is straining. Treat it as information, not annoyance. So people believe hybrids don't need maintenance, and I don't know where that myth came from. Um, but I guess hybrids earned a reputation for reliability, honestly, and that reputation created a dangerous assumption. Reliability means self-sufficient. Well, they're reliable because they have two different systems. So think about that. So redundant is the key here. So here's what actually happened. Early hybrid adopters noticed their brakes lasted far longer than expected. Their engines ran less often, and they weren't visiting the shop as frequently as their neighbors with conventional cars. All that's true. Hybrid regenerative braking genuinely reduces wear on the brake pads. The gas engine gen- genuinely shuts off during low demanding driving, reducing constant wear and tear. But less frequent got mentally rounded down to never, and that rounding error has exactly where hybrid owners get hurt. The reliability is that hybrids don't need less attention, they need different attention. The maintenance profile shifts. Some things you worry about in a gas car matter less. Other things you've never had to think about become critically important. When you apply gas car assumptions to a hybrid, you'll overworry about the wrong things and completely ignore the right ones. So the systems that actually need you. You've got a high voltage battery and its cooling system. This is the heart of the hybrid, and it's the single most expensive component to replace. A tailored, a failed high voltage battery can cost as much as a used car. Most owners have heard that number and simply hope they never meet it. Here's what they don't hear. The high voltage battery lifespan is heavily influenced by how well the cooling system is maintained. Many hybrids pull cabin air across the battery pack to keep it in a healthy temperature range. The air path includes a filter and vents that clog with dust, pet hair, and debris over time. When airflow drops, the battery runs hotter than designed. Heat is the enemy of battery chemistry. And in any climate with real summer heat, thermal stress becomes one of the most single biggest factors in how long the hybrid battery lasts. A battery that should last well over a decade can degrade dramatically faster simply because a small airflow issue went unaddressed for years. That's the compounding effect in one sentence, and a small, cheap, ignorable problem quietly destroys the most expensive component of the car. And then you got the inverter coolant. Your hybrid has a separate cooling loop for the inverter, the component that converts high voltage DC power into the AC power your car motor uses. And back again, this coolant is not the same as your engine coolant, and it does not last forever. When it degrades or the pump weakens, the inverter overheats. Inverter replacement is another one of those repairs that makes owners physically wince. You definitely don't want to be replacing the electric battery, not the normal car battery, but the electric battery in a hybrid vehicle, and you don't want to be replacing the inverter. And almost no one thinks about the inverter coolant. It's invisible, it's silent, and it never announces itself until it fails. A shop that knows hybrids checks it. A quick lube that treats your hybrid like any other car never touches it. And then, of course, you got the internal combustion engine. And yes, it still matters. Don't measure your hybrid's oil life by mileage alone. Two hybrids with identical odometer readings can have wildly different engine wear depending on driving patterns. Lots of short trips around town versus longer highway runs. A good shop reads the whole picture and not just the number on the dash. And, brakes you rarely use, but that's its own problem. So regenerative braking means your physical brake pads get used far less. That sounds like pure good news. It isn't. Brake components that rarely engage can seize, corrode, or develop uneven wear. Calipers can stick, rotors can rust, especially in humid or salted road climates where corrosion or underused brakes is a genuine year after year concern. And in hilly terrain, regenerative braking gets a heavy workout that can quietly mask what's happening to the physical brakes and underneath. The very thing that saves your pads can hide a brake system that's slowly deteriorating from underuse. Hybrid brake maintenance isn't about replacing worn pads, it's about keeping a rarely used system healthy and ready. And then the real math, what neglect actually costs. You can't neglect stuff and expect it to work. You can't neglect your body and expect it to keep working. You can't neglect your car and expect it to keep working. You can't neglect stuff and expect it to keep working. It just doesn't work that way. And then if you choose the wrong shop that thinks that your hybrid is like a regular car, because it's not, and somebody that's not getting it done right the first time, and I get it, especially nowadays with parts. Parts are such a big deal, it's not even funny. Okay. Um, Parts used to not be that big of an issue. Parts used to, there weren't that, think about it. Back in the day, car style would last 10 years, 8 to 12 years, so 10 years. And so about every 10 years, the car manufacturer changed the style of the car. And, a lot of the manufacturers had the same kind of cars across different brands. They just were called something different. I used to remember the part numbers because they just didn't change very often, especially on all of the common stuff as far as brakes and spark plugs and all of that stuff. And we had to replace spark plugs a lot more often back then. So now car manufacturers are changing the model and the style inside of the model so often it's not even funny. They like vehicles like the Xterra that stayed the same for forever don't stay the same anymore, but they don't even make it anymore. So think about that for just a second. The key is the evolution of the vehicles have changed so much it's not even funny. And the shop that you're picking has to keep up with it. And you're not going to be replacing the same stuff on a regular gas engine versus a hybrid. Just not. Some of the stuff is the same, but most of it's not. And those two systems working in concert with each other is just such a huge, big deal. It's not even funny. So stay safe, stay strong.